Welcome to Paul's Funhouse with a wild and weird abound. From the serious to the paranormal, there's no telling what you'll find. Hosted by Paul and friends, they'll take you on a wild ride through the realms of the unknown and the mysteries that hide. So come on in and take a seat, get ready for a show where anything can happen and the energy will flow. Welcome to the Funhouse, where the topics change and the lights are bright. It's a one-of-a-kind experience that will keep you up all night. So join Paul and friends and let the good times roll in the world of the Funhouse where anything goes. Let's go. Oh, oh, oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to Paul's Funhouse. Today we are diving into a very interesting topic that could spark many conversations: conspiracy theories. We will discuss the most popular conspiracy theories. So buckle up and enjoy the ride through some interesting conspiracy theories. The deaths of prominent figures of all types attract conspiracy theorists, sometimes elaborating on historically verified conspiracies, such as the assassination of U.S. President Abraham Lincoln, as well as the deaths of Martin Luther King Jr., Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, Eric V of Denmark, Dmitry Ivanovich, Sheikh Rahman, Yitzhak Rabin, Zachary Taylor, George S. Patton, Diana, Princess of Wales, Dag Hammarskjöld, Kurt Cobain, Michael Jackson, Marilyn Monroe, Tupac Shakur, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, John Lennon, Jimi Hendrix, Notorious Big, Pope John Paul I, Jill Dando, Olaf Palm, member of Linkin Park Chester Bennington, Paul Walker, Biological Warfare Authority David Kelly, Haitian President Jovenel Moïse, Indian freedom fighter Subhash Chandra Bose, and Bollywood star Sushant Singh Rajput. There are also claims that deaths were covered up. Such theories include the Paul is dead claim, alleging that Paul McCartney died in a car accident in 1966 and was replaced by a look-alike Scottish orphan named William Shears Campbell, who also went by Billy Shears, and that the Beatles hinted at this in their songs, most noticeably Revolution 9, Strawberry Fields Forever, Glass Onion, and I Am the Walrus, as well on the covers of Abbey Road, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and Magical Mystery Tour. Another is the conspiracy theory, widely circulated in Nigeria, which alleges that Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari died in 2017 and was replaced by a look-alike Sudanese imposter. Many fans of punk pop star Avril Lavigne claim that she died at the height of her fame and was replaced by a look-alike named Melissa. The Melania Trump replacement theory proposes the same as the former US First Lady. Inverted theories concerning deaths are also known, prominently claims that Elvis Presley's death was faked and that Adolf Hitler survived the Second World War and fled to the Americas, Antarctica, or even the moon. Theories that Hitler had survived are known to have been deliberately promoted by the government of the Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin as part of a disinformation campaign. The disappearance and often presumed death of an individual may also become a cause for conspiracy theorists. Theories of a cover-up surrounding the 1974 disappearance of Lord Lucan following the murder of his family's nanny include, for example, allegations of a suicide plot whereby his body was fed to tigers at Howlett's Zoo. Numerous conspiracy theories have also attended the 2007 disappearance of English girl Madeleine McCann. The murder of Democratic National Committee employee Seth Rich spawned several right-wing conspiracy theories, including that Rich had been involved with the leaked DNC emails in 2016, which runs contrary to U.S. intelligence's conclusion that the leaked DNC emails were part of Russian interference in the 2016 United States elections. Law enforcement and fact-checking websites like PolitiFact.com, Snopes.com, and factcheck.org stated that these theories were false and unfounded. The New York Times, Los Angeles Times, and the Washington Post called the fabrications fake news and falsehoods. There are more conspiracy theories than just those around the death of famous people, such as the New World Order theory. The common theme in conspiracy theories about a New World Order is that a secretive power elite with a globalist agenda is conspiring to eventually achieve world domination and rule the world through an authoritarian one-world government, which will replace sovereign nation-states, and an all-encompassing propaganda whose ideology hails the establishment of the New World Order as the culmination of history's progress. Many influential historical and contemporary figures have therefore been alleged to be part of a conspiracy that operates through many front organizations to orchestrate significant political and financial events, ranging from causing systemic crises to pushing through controversial policies at both national and international levels, as steps in an ongoing plot to achieve world domination. Before the early 1990s, New World Order conspiracism was limited to two American countercultures, primarily the militantly anti-government right, and secondarily the part of fundamentalist Christianity concerned with the eschatological end-time emergence of the Antichrist. Academics who study conspiracy theories and religious extremism, such as Michael Barkin and Chip Berlay, observed that right-wing populist conspiracy theories about a New World Order not only had been embraced by many seekers of stigmatized knowledge, but also had seeped into popular culture, thereby fueling a surge of interest and participation in survivalism and paramilitarism as many people actively prepare for apocalyptic and millenarian scenarios. These political scientists warn that mass hysteria over New World Order conspiracy theories could eventually have devastating effects on American political life, ranging from escalating lone wolf terrorism to the rise to power of authoritarian ultranationalist demagogues. Since the 19th century, many apocalyptic millennial Christian eschatologists, starting with John Nelson Darby, have predicted a globalist conspiracy to impose a tyrannical New World Order governing structure as the fulfillment of prophecies about the end time in the Bible, specifically in the Book of Ezekiel, the Book of Daniel, the Olivet Discourse found in the Synoptic Gospels, 2 Esdras 11:32 and Revelation 13:7. They claim that people who have made a deal with the devil to gain wealth and power have become pawns in a supernatural chess game to move humanity into accepting a utopian world government that rests on the spiritual foundations of a syncretic messianic world religion, which will later reveal itself to be a dystopian world empire that imposes the imperial cult of an unholy trinity of Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. In many contemporary Christian conspiracy theories, the false prophet will be either the last pope of the Catholic Church, groomed and installed by an Alta Vendita or Jesuit conspiracy, a guru from the New Age movement, or even the leader of an elite fundamentalist Christian organization like the Fellowship. At the same time, the Antichrist will be either the President of the European Union, the Caliph of a pan-Islamic state, or even the Secretary General of the United Nations. Some of the most vocal critics of end-time conspiracy theories come from within Christianity. In 1993, historian Bruce Barron wrote a stern rebuke of apocalyptic Christian conspiracism in the Christian Research Journal when reviewing Robertson's 1991 book, The New World Order. Another critique can be found in historian Gregory S. Camp's 1997 book, Selling Fear Conspiracy Theories and End Times Paranoia. Religious studies scholar Richard T. Hughes argues that New World Order rhetoric libels the Christian faith since the New World Order, as defined by Christian conspiracy theorists, has no basis in the Bible whatsoever. Furthermore, he argues that not only is this idea unbiblical, but it is positively anti-biblical and fundamentally anti-Christian because by misinterpreting critical passages in the book of Revelation, it turns a comforting message about the coming kingdom of God into one of fear, panic, and despair in the face of an allegedly approaching one-world government. Progressive Christians such as preacher-theologian Peter J. Gomes caution Christian fundamentalists that a spirit of fear can distort scripture and history through dangerously combining biblical literalism, apocalyptic timetables, demonization, and oppressive prejudices. At the same time, Camp warns of the genuine danger that Christians could pick up some extra spiritual baggage by credulously embracing conspiracy theories. They therefore call on Christians who indulge in conspiracism to repent. Freemasonry is one of the world's oldest secular fraternal organizations, which arose in Great Britain during the 18th century. Over the years, several allegations and conspiracy theories have been directed toward Freemasonry, including the allegation that Freemasons have a hidden political agenda and are conspiring to bring about a new world order, a world government organized according to Masonic principles or governed only by Freemasons. The esoteric nature of Masonic symbolism and rites led to Freemasons first being accused of secretly practicing Satanism in the late 18th century. The original allegation of a conspiracy within Freemasonry to subvert religions and governments to take over the world traces back to Scottish author John Robison, whose reactionary conspiracy theories crossed the Atlantic and influenced outbreaks of Protestant anti-Masonry in the United States during the 19th century. In the 1890s, French writer Leo Taxil wrote a series of pamphlets and books denouncing Freemasonry and charging their lodges with worshipping Lucifer as the supreme being and great architect of the universe. Even though Taxil admitted that his claims were all a hoax, they were and still are believed and repeated by numerous conspiracy theorists and had a significant influence on subsequent anti-Masonic claims about Freemasonry. Some conspiracy theorists eventually speculated that some founding fathers of the United States, such as George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, had Masonic sacred geometric designs interwoven into American society, particularly in the Great Seal of the United States, the United States $1 bill, the architecture of National Mall landmarks, and the streets and highways of Washington, D.C., as part of a master plan to create the first Masonic government as a model for the coming New World Order. Freemasons rebut these claims of a Masonic conspiracy. Freemasonry, which promotes rationalism, places no power on occult symbols themselves, and it is not a part of its principles to view the drawing of symbols, no matter how large, as an act of consolidating or controlling power. Furthermore, no published information establishes the Masonic membership of the men responsible for the design of the Great Seal. Conspiracy theorists assert that there are elements of Masonic influence on the Great Seal of the United States. These elements were intentionally or unintentionally used because the creators were familiar with the symbols of the all-seeing eye of Providence. The unfinished pyramids were symbols used as much outside Masonic lodges as within them in the late 18th century. Therefore, the designers were drawing from common esoteric symbols. The Latin phrase Novus Ordo Seclorum, appearing on the reverse side of the Great Seal since 1782 and the back of the $1 bill since 1935, translates to New Order of the Ages, and alludes to the beginning of an era where the United States of America is an independent nation-state. Conspiracy theorists often mistranslate it as New World Order. Although the European continental branch of Freemasonry has organizations that allow political discussion within their Masonic lodges, Masonic researcher Trevor W. McCown argues that the accusations ignore several facts. Firstly, the many Grand Lodges are independent and sovereign, meaning they act independently and do not have a common agenda. The points of belief of the various lodges often differ. Secondly, famous Freemasons have always held views that span the political spectrum and show no particular pattern or preference. As such, the term Masonic government is erroneous. There is no consensus among Freemasons about what an ideal government would look like. The final theory I'm going to cover today is UFOs, a conspiracy theory that has been around since the crash at Roswell. UFO conspiracy theories are a subset of conspiracy theories that argue that various governments and politicians globally, in particular the United States government, are suppressing evidence that unidentified flying objects are controlled by non-human intelligence or built using alien technology. Such conspiracy theories usually argue that Earth governments are in communication or cooperation with extraterrestrial visitors, despite public disclaimers, and further that some of these theories claim that the governments are explicitly allowing alien abduction. Individuals who have suggested that UFO evidence is being suppressed include Stanford University immunologist Gary Nolan, United States Senator Barry Goldwater, British Admiral Lord Hill Norton, former NATO head and chief of the British Defense Staff, American Vice Admiral Roscoe H. Hillenkoetter, first CIA director, Israeli Brigadier General Haim Eshed, former director of space programs for the Israel Ministry of Defense, astronauts Gordon Cooper and Edgar Mitchell, and former Canadian Defense Minister Paul Hellyer. Beyond their testimonies and reports, they have presented no evidence to substantiate their statements and claims. According to the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, little or no evidence exists to support them despite significant research by non-governmental scientific agencies. Scholars of religion have identified some new religious movements among the proponents of UFO conspiracy theories, most notably Heaven's Gate, the Nation of Islam, and Scientology. On July 8, 1947, Roswell Army Airfield issued a press release stating that they had recovered a flying disc. The Army quickly retracted the statement and clarified that the crashed object was a conventional weather balloon. The Roswell incident did not surface again until the late 1970s, when it was incorporated into conspiracy literature. The Roswell balloon was far from the only misidentified disc. One potential disc, recovered from the yard of a priest in Grafton, Wisconsin, was identified as an ordinary circular saw blade. More elaborate hoax saucers were found in Shreveport, Louisiana, Black River Falls, Wisconsin, and Clearwater, Florida. On July 9th, the press reported the recovery of a 30-inch disc from a Hollywood backyard. The hoaxer was never identified. On July 11th, the press reported the recovery of a 30-inch disc from the yard of a Twin Falls, Idaho home. On July 12th, it was reported nationally that the Twin Falls disc was a hoax. Photos of the object were publicly released. The object contained radio tubes, electric coils, and wires underneath a plexiglass dome. The press reported that 4 teenagers had confessed to creating the disc. On April 3, 1949, radio personality Walter Winchell broadcast the claim that it had been definitively established that the flying saucers were guided missiles fired from Russia. In response, the Air Force denied any such conclusion and reportedly requested an FBI investigation into Winchell's claims, which was denied. In March 1950, the Air Force denied that flying saucers existed and further denied that they were U.S. technology being covered up. The 1950s saw increased governmental and civilian investigative efforts, public disinformation reports, and evidence suppression. The UK Ministry of Defence's UFO project has its roots in a 1950 study commissioned by the MOD's then chief scientific advisor, radar scientist Henry Tizard. The department's insistence that UFO sightings should only be dismissed with some form of proper scientific study led it to set up the Flying Saucer Working Party, or FSWP. In August 1950, Montanan baseball manager Nicholas Mariana filmed several UFOs with his color 16mm camera. Project Blue Book was called in, and after inspecting the film, Mariana claimed it was returned to him with critical footage removed, clearly showing the objects as disc-shaped. The incident sparked nationwide media attention. In April 1952, Life magazine published Have We Visitors from Space, an article sympathetic to the extraterrestrial hypothesis that is thought to have contributed to the 1952 UFO flap. Canadian radio engineer Wilbert B. Smith, who worked for the Canadian Department of Transport, was interested in flying saucer propulsion technology and wondered if the assertions in the just-published Scully and Kehoe books were factual. In September 1950, he had the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C. contact U.S. officials to discover the truth. Smith was briefed by Robert Sarbacher, a physicist and consultant to the Defense Department's Research and Development Board. Other correspondence concerning Kehoe needing clearance to publish another article on Smith's theories of UFO propulsion indicated that Bush and his group were operating out of the Research and Development Board. Smith then briefed superiors in the Canadian government, leading to the establishment of Project Magnet, a small Canadian government UFO research effort. Canadian documents and Smith's private papers were uncovered in the late 1970s. By 1984, other alleged documents emerged claiming the existence of a highly secret UFO oversight committee of scientists and military people called Majestic 12, again naming Vannevar Bush. Sarbacher was also interviewed in the 1980s, and the information was corroborated in Smith's memos and correspondence. Throughout the 1950s and early 1960s, Smith granted public interviews and, among other things, stated that he had been lent crashed UFO material for analysis by a highly secret U.S. government group, which he wouldn't name. A few weeks after the Robertson panel, the Air Force issued Regulation 202, ordering airbase officers to publicly discuss UFO incidents only if they were judged to have been solved, and to classify all the unsolved cases to keep them out of the public eye. In addition, UFO investigative duties were started by the newly formed 4602nd Air Intelligence Squadron, AISS, of the Air Defense Command. The 4602nd AISS was tasked with investigating only the most important UFO cases having intelligence or national security implications. These were deliberately siphoned away from Blue Book, leaving Blue Book to deal with the more trivial reports. Clark cites a 1973 encounter as the earliest suggestion that the US government was involved with ETs. That year, Robert Emenegger and Alan Sandler of Los Angeles, California, were in contact with officials at Norton Air Force Base to make a documentary film. Emenegger and Sandler report that Air Force officials, including Paul Shartle, suggested incorporating UFO information in the documentary, including genuine footage of a 1971 UFO landing at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico as its centerpiece. Furthermore, Emenegger says he was given a tour of Holloman AFB and was shown where officials conferred with aliens. This was supposedly not the first time the US had met these aliens. Emenegger reported that his US military sources had been monitoring signals from an alien group with which they were unfamiliar, and did their ET guests know anything about them? The ETs said no. The documentary was released in 1974 as UFOs, Past, Present, and Future, narrated by Rod Serling, containing only a few seconds of the Holloman UFO footage, the remainder of the landing depicted with illustrations and reenactments. In 1976, a televised documentary report, UFOs, It Has Begun, written by Robert Emenegger, was presented by Rod Serling, Burgess Meredith, and Jose Ferrer. Some sequences were recreated based on the statements of eyewitness observers, together with the findings and conclusions of governmental civil and military investigations. The documentary uses a hypothetical UFO landing at Holloman AFB as a backdrop. Emenegger's 1973 depiction of a landing at Holloman is widely noted for its striking similarities to Steven Spielberg's 1977 depiction of a landing at Devil's Tower in the film Close Encounters of the Third Kind. In the 2013 documentary Mirage Men, ufologist Richard Dolan discussed the Emenegger documentary, saying, "I have wondered if that film, I think as many people have wondered, was an abortive attempt at some kind of disclosure." In February 1978, UFO researcher Stanton Friedman interviewed Jesse Marcel, the only person known to have accompanied the Roswell debris from where it was recovered to Fort Worth, where reporters saw material claimed to be part of the recovered object. Marcel's statements contradicted those he made to the press in 1947. In November 1979, Marcel's first filmed interview was featured in a documentary titled UFOs Are Real, co-written by Friedman. The film had a limited release but was later syndicated for broadcasting. On February 28, 1980, sensationalist tabloid The National Enquirer brought large-scale attention to the Marcel story. On September 20, 1980, the TV series In Search Of aired an interview where Marcel described his participation in the 1947 press conference. They wanted some comments from me, but I wasn't at liberty to do that. So, all I could do was keep my mouth shut. And General Ramey is the one who told the newspapers, I mean the newsman, what it was, and to forget about it. It is nothing more than a weather observation balloon. Of course, we both knew differently. Marcel gave a final interview to HBO's America Undercover, aired in August 1985. In all his statements, Marcel consistently denied the presence of bodies. Between 1978 and the early 1990s, UFO researchers such as Stanton T. Friedman, William Moore, Carl T. Flock, and the team of Kevin D. Randall and Donald R. Schmidt interviewed several dozen people who claimed to have had a connection with the events at Roswell in 1947. In the 1990s, the U.S. military published 2 reports disclosing the true nature of the crashed aircraft, a surveillance balloon from Project Mogul. Nevertheless, the Roswell incident continues to interest the media, and conspiracy theories surrounding the event persist. Roswell has been described as the world's most famous, most exhaustively investigated, and most thoroughly debunked UFO claim. The Branton Files are documents espousing various conspiracy theories circulated online since the mid-1990s. They are most often attributed to Bruce Allen Walton, who claims to have been a victim of alien abduction and had contact through altered states of consciousness with humans living in the inner Earth. The files have been characterized as high fantasy filled with complex and convoluted conspiracism. Works of popular fiction have included premises and scenes in which a government intentionally prevents disclosure to its populace of the discovery of non-human, extraterrestrial intelligence. Motion picture examples include 2001, A Space Odyssey, as well as the earlier novel by Arthur C. Clarke, Easy Rider, the Steven Spielberg films Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Hangar 18, Total Recall, Men in Black, and Independence Day. Television series and movies, including The X-Files, Dark Skies, and Stargate, have also featured efforts by governments to conceal information about extraterrestrial beings. The plot of the Sidney Sheldon novel, The Doomsday Conspiracy, involves a UFO conspiracy. And after all that, we will call it a day on this episode of Paul's Funhouse. We have looked into a few conspiracy theories. There are still plenty more we could dive into, and we might in the future. Let me know your favorite conspiracy theory in the comments, and it just might end up in a future episode of Paul's Funhouse. Another episode is coming soon, so stay tuned and stay weird.
This is Paul's Funhouse, where the show never ends.